Carter Semino here with the Acadiana cast and Love of People nonprofit with two very special guests. A third you'll definitely recognize being involved with Love of People, that being John Williams. But our first two guests here with us today are the great Gus Rezende and Marc Broussard, here to talk about Downtown Rising, coming up September 27th, Friday at Park International. Exciting day, exciting time. Marc, you're celebrating 20 years of Carencro, going to be playing the whole album through. A great set of lineup leading up to your show, specifically music kind of all afternoon, all evening. And Gus, I'll start with you. This is celebrating the 5th year of Downtown Rising. You got to be excited.
Very excited. You know, it's been a passion project for my wife and I and my managers at Social Entertainment. We never thought we'll be at year 5. You know, putting on events like that, it's not easy, you know, especially with a community in a state that is so used to free festivals and free events. So creating that culture and that understanding that we need to invest in our musicians in a different way, right? So it's been a lot of work, but man, hitting 5 years, hosting that celebration, to us is the cherry in the cake. And I was like, when I called him, I was like, you must have a lot of options, but give us a shot. And we worked it through with his management, and here we are. You know, not only we have a fantastic bill opening for Marc, but Marc celebrating this iconic, you know, date in an event that is the most passionate event that we have in our, you know, collection. It's all, you know, it's the best combination.
Yeah,
and it's actually the 20th anniversary this month. We put that record out 20 years ago in September, and I didn't have many options. We had a plan where we were going to do something special at Pelican Park, and we were kind of in negotiations with the city of Carencro when Gus called and made a much better offer, essentially, to host it at Park International and as a part of Downtown Rising, and that took a whole lot of load off of my shoulders. So I'm really grateful to Gus for stepping up and helping us pull this achievement together. You know, when we first announced Carencro Tour at the beginning of this year, we announced about half of the year's dates, and one of the biggest gripes from the comment section was, you know, you're celebrating the 20th anniversary of Carencro and ain't playing nowhere near Carencro. I was like, give it some time, guys. We want to make this thing special. Hello? Give me some time to work this show out and so that we come into town guns a-blazing instead of working it out in front of the home crowd. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that we're finally getting here.
Yeah, man. Take me back 20 years ago when the album dropped. Obviously put you on the map, lead to a lot of future success for you. But put me in the mind space of Marc Broussard 20 years ago.
Man, you don't want to be in that space. That dude was a friggin' mess. In fact, if he walked in the room right now, I would literally punch him in the mouth. And then when he said, "Why did you do that?" I'd punch him right in the mouth again. I was quite full of myself. I was really, really so much more confident than I had any right to be. And I thought I had arrived. You know, I thought I was on a gravy train that was never going to end as long as I showed up. And anybody that's been successful in business knows that that's actually not how things work. You have to engage. I thought that I had a team of people around me that was going to guide me in the right places. And ultimately, the mistakes that were made, the failures that were made in that era, all fell squarely on my head, as they rightly should have. So I learned a lot of really hard lessons back in those days that still live with me today.
But yeah, you've become a better man throughout the journey, the struggle, and learning lessons. And it's been cool to kind of follow your career from afar and then get to know you, moving to Lafayette and getting involved with Love of People, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But Gus, you mentioned something earlier about this whole culture that we have down here of people are so used to being able to go somewhere and get access to free music. And unfortunately, for a lot of the artists, they come out on the bottom of that equation. So was that really specific by Downtown Rising when you guys started to not necessarily fully change the culture of that, but, you know, say, hey guys, if we want nice things, we want to get these good musicians over here, we're going to have to put up a couple bucks.
Well, let me start off by saying it would be hypocritical of me not to say I'm part of the problem, right? We've been running an event company for 15 years, and we have produced several music series and free concerts and festivals. And I think one thing I do take pride is that we have kept up with the relationships with musicians from the moment we started Rhythms on the River 18 years ago. We no longer book those, but we have kept up with every musician. We never, until today, had any downfalls with any local regional musician. So in a way, yes, we are responsible for some of the freebies, but it's part of also the Louisiana culture, right? I mean, that's why we have the tourism that we have. So Downtown Rising, one of the reasons was like, let's create something that steps up in production, right? We wanted to have a very special level of experience that people may go to bigger markets, like Marc plays all over the world, and make Park International become more attractive for somebody to go to a show. We also really wanted to focus on not overcrowding the park. This is not a show that is designed for people to be packed like sardines. Is that you have all these options, VIP, lounge, which is all sold out, by the way. We only have general admission left. In front stage. But the idea was also to create a comfortable environment. One thing about Downtown Rising is that re-entry is available at all times, as long as you don't bring food and beverage inside the park, because we are supporting the rise of downtown. So if somebody wants to take a break before Marc goes on stage, they can go to Vesto and have dinner. We are not holding people in the park for the sake of generating revenue, right? So there are some things that we wanted to do purposely by watching how we've done things before and how other promoters done things before. But the idea of Downtown Rising is to bring musicians that are on the rise, they're coming back on the rise, or they constantly rise. They pivot and rise and keep rising. They find ways to recreate themselves. Like Marc said, success is not based on you showing up. It's based on you learning how to pivot, learning how to evolve, and learn how to, learn from your mistakes. So to us, every lineup we've had so far, we have been able to tell a story. There was a point before Marc that I was in the blink of booking some headliners that my wife says, that goes against everything that Downtown Rising is for. If you want to make a ton of money, make a ton of money. So we've always had to go back and not settle for just a band that might be interested. Downtown Rising is something that we focus and we specifically curate the lineup.
Well, as a fan of live music and the acts that you guys have been bringing to Downtown Rising the past few years, I absolutely love it. I love the model, and it's been really cool to see.
Variety.
Yeah, the variety. Wasn't it Blues Traveler a few years ago?
Well, we had Revivalists. We started with Revivalists. We then jumped on Big Frida and Tanking the Bangers, which that was a special year. Was right in the tail end of COVID. Mm-hmm. The amount of kids that came to us and says, thanks for booking these bands as headliners. Right. And then the third year, we got Cold War kids that, had some success in the 90s, early 2000s, and they were in the brink of renewing a new album, and then last year, Boogie T. I mean, this amazing DJ that play Red Rocks and play all kinds of venues around the country, and is a kid from New Iberia. Once again, we've received a lot of thanks from DJs. Every DJ that play in this town, we're like, man, thanks for throwing a DJ concert, right? So, and here we are with Marc. I mean, we have a rock and roll, blues. I mean, we got it all. I mean, this 3 bands coming in on the 27th. I mean, they're gonna rock the park. It's gonna be totally nuts. Yeah, I was totally calling a different concert, but I remember seeing Cold War Kids. And I remember seeing the Revivalists, great band out of the New Orleans area. Maybe Blues Travelers one day. Maybe. Who knows? Yeah, right. Now, Marc, being from here, ingratiated in the musical culture of this area. Your dad was a big influence, but also just all the cats that we have around here. You could throw a rock in any direction. Hit a great player. What have you seen as far as people like Gus and bringing music to downtown and kind of revitalizing, rising up this culture of music here?
Well, look, man, I've been playing downtown. I launched my career downtown at the Sidebar. And I
love the Sidebar.
Yeah, it was a fun spot, man. So, when we kind of lost Grant Street Dance Hall and then somebody bought it and turned it into a really nice venue, renovated the place, and we had Grant Street for a really long time. And then some parking lot dispute kind of killed Grant Street for some reason in the way that it was, and all of a sudden we kind of didn't have anywhere to go for a minute. Then Gus shows up and opens up JSP, and gives us JSP as a real, proper, beautiful, wonderful venue. He started something, I think, downtown that really has blossomed. Now we've got Rock and Bowl. Now we got Grouse Room. We've had Park International since then. These are really critical lanes of entry for young musicians, and without them, we're going to be in a real bind. ACA is another one. I forgot about ACA.
Warehouse.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's right. That's downtown too.
Yeah.
So it's really been a critical, he's been a critical partner for the music scene here, and I couldn't be more grateful to call him a pal.
Well, Marc, tell me, as a fan of yours, maybe other fans of yours out there, they're seeing this video, this podcast, whatever it is, and they're just getting wind all of a sudden of Downtown Rising, that you're going to be putting on this great show. What can they expect from this show?
So it's record release day for me, actually, the same day. We're putting out a brand new record called Time is a Thief. But make no mistake, we're playing Carencro from front to back. Some of the songs have had some evolutions over the years. And so, like, The Wanderer is a little different than you might remember it. Let Me Leave has got a little twist on it. But for the most part, you're going to hear all of the songs from that record. And you'll hear a handful of other tunes from my last blues album, SOS 4. And you'll also hear some stuff from Time is a Thief as well. We're planning on having a really, really good time. So far, everywhere we've gone this year with this show, the shows have been incredible. So dust off your dancing shoes if you ain't put them on in a while, because we're gonna have a good old time.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, after the show, you're going to Europe, right? So you're not going to be around for a while.
Yeah, we play Tipitina's the very next night, and then we'll fly 2 days after that.
Yep.
So I won't be around for a good long while. We won't be playing around here until Christmas time.
Get your Marc Broussard fix while you can, folks. Gus, before we switch you out of here with John Williams, give us all the details that people need to know about the show.
The weather next week looks fantastic. Let's just keep it that way. It's the first time Downtown Rising is hosted on a Friday night, because Downtown Alive is not happening. So gates open at 5, Park International. Tickets right now, socialentertainment.net. You can still find general admission tickets and front stage access tickets. Everything else has been sold out. We do have some corporate packages that are also still available in group tickets. Gates open at 5. We got our host, Ryan Veon, the downtown mayor, right? We have DJ Digital, which has been with me from year one. He's very much part of creating Downtown Rising. We started this from the very beginning. We have Lost by You Ramblers, Louis, very good friend. And we have North Mississippi All-Stars, which I did watch at McGrain Street one time. I've watched them in some different festivals. I'm excited. I have close friends that love them as well. And then we have Marc closing out the show. So, get downtown early on Friday, get in the gate at 5, get you enjoy the experience that we have set up for you guys. But we have an amazing lineup, socialentertainment.net. Get your tickets.
Well, Gus, I appreciate you being here. We're going to take a quick little break, get you some more information about Downtown Rising, and be right back with another conversation with John Williams and Marc Broussard.
Lafayette Roofing presents Downtown Rising at Park International. Don't miss this night of Grammy artists, including North Mississippi All-Stars, Lost by You Ramblers, and Marc Broussard celebrating 20 years of the album Carencro. Tickets will go fast. Visit socialentertainment.net to get yours.
And we're back with Marc Broussard and the aforementioned John Williams, the executive director of Love of People nonprofit, two very close friends. Now, Marc, when I first heard Carencro, it was my mom had like a 2004 Durango maybe, and she had one of those CD changers, and you were in between the Oh Brother Wart Thou soundtrack and the Ked Mo album.
Oh, nice.
So
good taste.
Oh yeah, it was a fun upbringing. But I love so many of those songs, and I can't wait to see the full thing in its performance 20 years later. John, when was your kind of first introduction to Marc Broussard?
98. you and your dad, I went to Beauchene. We didn't know one another, but you would play in these fields with your dad in Orneville a couple of times. What's his name? Mark. I forget his last name, but I think it's your cousin somewhere. But y'all would play on the property over there, and we would have our little party out there. But I got to hear you and your dad play like in early 90s, like, mid 90s. But the real time that we first met was whenever you walked into JSP with Tony and Sheila Davern, and Sonia was with you, and you bought my sweet potatoes.
That's right.
For community Thanksgiving. I think that was year 3.
Gotcha.
And you said, J-Dub, you said, I got your sweet potatoes, Bob. And I'm like, yeah, that's Marc Broussard, you know. and then now we doing 5,000 meals. You said, I ain't buying all your sweet potatoes this year. I ain't mad at that. So that's how we first met. We first really met with this man, completely serving in love of people.
Yeah, Community Thanksgiving, one of Love of People's events, now going into its 11th year. You can go to loveofpeople.org to learn more about how to get involved in that. But you know, also from the music standpoint, John and Love of People have this Blue Monday mission, for those who don't know, helping to serve the aging creative population of Acadiana that Marc's definitely been involved with. And John, you've learned a lot through Marc about kind of the struggles that a lot of these artists, especially the older musicians, have gone through, and what kind of the new generation, what we're trying to teach them to do, right?
Yeah, Marc is part of something we call Art of Business that we started with the young musician to try to help prevent the young musician to ending up where we find in a lot of our older musicians, giving them a little more business acumen. He was definitely at the table with me whenever I was trying to figure it out what we could do. But when it comes to, you know, Blue Monday for me and my learning curve that I needed, I always just loved music, and that was it for me. But the learning curve that I've got to experience from people like Sammy Parbu, Marc Broussard, Lee Allen Zeno, Cal Fran was a huge person in my life that taught me about this music and the lack of business that's in the industry. But where I feel the difference with Marc is that he helps toe the rope. It's not a conversation, but it's actual help pulling people forward. That's what we've partnered up.
And, you know, Marc, can you kind of, you know, speak to that of, you know, maybe some of the conversations that you've had with John, or some of the need that you thought this community definitely needed that we could potentially serve?
Well, look, man, the music business, Hunter S. Thompson had the best quote for the music business. He said that the music business is a long plastic hallway where pimps and thieves run wild and good men die like dogs. There's also a bad side. In other words, that's the good side.
Yeah.
It's a brutal business at times, and especially I find around here, it's a brutal business, especially. And there's not a whole lot of planning for the future when you're a musician here locally, it seems. And so one of the biggest aspects that I've seen with this aging community is that, you know, these are guys that are living on fixed incomes and relying on the kindness of some younger gun to like look up to this wonderful legend and bring them along for the ride. And that's not sustainable, you know? That's really not sustainable. So one of the things that John and I partnered on recently was to find a house. I have been aware of Lee Allen Zeno's house situation for several years now, and I've done my level best to try and plug the holes there. It was a bit too late when we were able to replace his roof about 2-3 years ago. It was just a bit too late to fix the problems. And so Lee needed a house. And I get on Facebook Marketplace. I find a house to be moved. He didn't have a price listed. I called him up. I tracked him down. He didn't have his phone number listed, but he had his name and so I'd go look him up, and he's got a company. So I'll find that page, and he's got his phone number there, and I called him. He didn't answer. I called him again, and he picks up a day or two later, and I said, "What are you looking for the house?" He's like, "Man, I'm really hoping to get 55 or so, but I'd probably let it go for 45. And I tell him the story about Lee Allen, and he says, "Man, let me talk to my wife. I'll call you back." And he called within 10 minutes and said, "I'll let it go for 30.
Wow.
I was like, okay, all right. Then I call a house mover buddy who happened to owe me a favor. I sang at his wedding, and then I didn't charge him anything.
Plug the company, baby, because they took care of us.
Hayes House Movers, my buddy Stephen Monmare. I said, what are you going to charge me? I tell him the whole story. He says, Mark, we already bid on that house. I bid $25,000 to move that house. I'll do it for you for $2,500. So for $32,500 in 2 phone calls, I can get Lee Allen a new house. Yeah, sure. Look, there's some extra expenses, and that's what we actually need. This is a call to action,
Amen.
By the way. If you can help out, we still got to get a new septic system in the ground. The AC, luckily, is good to go. There's some roof that's definitely going to need to get done. We got to put a new front porch on because they had to cut it off because it was too wide. We've got some back porches that we also are going to need to put up. So we still need somewhere in the neighborhood of about $30,000 to really finish this project and get it all said and done. But the house inside is perfect, and we're really anxious to get Lee and his wife in this new home as soon as possible because the old house is deteriorating in front of our eyes.
Yeah, man, and it's a beautiful story, and the fact that you were able to articulate, Lee Allen's story and have other people in the community be like, all right, I'm in. What can I do to help? That just kind of speaks to the power of the work and culture building that a person like Lee Allen Zeno has done for this community, whether people knew it or not.
Yeah,
and there's so many musicians around here like that who have helped kind of pave the way for other artists like yourself to be successful or even just do what they love, which is play music in front of people and share that. And
that's really the most enjoyable part about my relationship with Lee. But I want the man to be in a home that's not going to fall around on him, that's not going to fall on his head, and I want him to be in a home that's healthy for him to live in, so that we can play together. Yeah. I want to be able to jam with this man for a lot longer. You know what I mean? He's a brilliant player. And I really enjoy his company and his time when we get to jam together. So
yeah, and we're gonna have more information on how you guys can help out with that project. I know Mark's gonna be doing some more things. We're gonna be seeing some more media and videos coming down the pipe with that. But I appreciate you sharing that story with us, kind of getting that early word out, getting people to come potentially help and get involved. And John, speaking on that, like what other things can people do to kind of get involved with not just Blue Monday, but this art of business and helping the young generation to prevent things like this happening to a person like Lee Allen Zeno in the future?
Just to be all encompassing, I get Mark on the couch in front of a camera, so it's like I'm gonna so utilize that time. But first,
all right, let me just illustrate something. I have a company, right? Mm-hmm. So when COVID made it illegal for me to do my job, I was able to apply for some loans, some business loans, because I have an LLC. Everybody in my band, they don't have their LLCs together, right? Everybody in every band around here don't really have their LLCs together.
That's cool.
And so they weren't able to make use of these funds that were made available to us,
right,
as business owners who could no longer do their jobs. So that's a big problem. It's a massive problem, and it's so easy to fix. And we have a beautiful lane and attorney partners that are helping with establishing these LLCs. We've got wonderful partners that are helping with financial planning and just overall thinking long-term strategy planning and having some semblance that
treat yourself like a business.
Yeah,
you are a business. You are a company. If you have something that you can sell, if you have a product that is marketable, then you need to treat yourself like a business. This whole process with Lee Allen, for me, it is simply an example of how important it is for this younger generation to look in the future and treat yourself like a business. Are there a lot of musicians out there that deserve to get a home? Yes, there are a lot of people out there, but is that feasible? No. The only way that we can truly impact our creative economy in the state of Louisiana is by empowering and educating this younger generation to first take yourself. It's all good to be passionate and loving. I have a private company that takes care of old people. I am very passionate about it. But I also need to feed my children and take care of my wife. So you have to take yourself seriously. You have to take your craft serious as you are on the stage. When you're off of that stage, you need to operate your business. Now, I say all the time, it's hard for me to be a business owner, my own secretary, my own CPA, my own accountant. I'm not expecting a band leader to be the end-all, be-all for your whole company, but you need to be aware of what these people around you should be doing.
Right.
And this partnership that Mark and I have created in Art of Business, we have vetted professionals around you that can help you form yourself into a business. That's the only way that we're going to really rise up and move all this forward. And everybody here deserves it. We have a lot of talented people, but you got to take yourself serious first.
Yeah, being a musician, it really does go so much further, especially in 2024. It goes so much further than what you do on stage. I've become the head of my marketing department. I'm the head of my creative. I'm the CEO. My manager is head of operations. And luckily I've got a guy in the chair that's really making sure that the operations are running smoothly.
Yeah.
But when it comes to developing content, like he's got some decent ideas to throw out there, but all the stuff that has done really, really well on social media has come from my brain.
Right.
Or somebody that I engaged with, a creative that I engaged with. These local content creators, these local filmmakers that we have in spades, by the way.
Yeah.
We've got them in spades down here. But you got to pay these guys, and it's not cheap. So you got to be able to go out there and generate some revenue so that you can create this self-driving promotional engine. That's what we've done with social media.
Right.
My social media channels, all of the revenue that we bring in just goes right back out the door. It's a self-driving machine, though, and you got to get it up and running. It does take some resources to get it up and running. If you don't have those skills in your own hands, then you got to outsource them, and that costs money.
Right, and then you'll also have some talented cats who are leveraging the power of social media and TikTok, and all of a sudden blowing up and having this large audience with no idea of how to run their business. You'll have a guy like a Zach Bryan who's now selling out arenas. When just a couple years ago he was on a naval ship, essentially just writing songs and then getting off the boat and making a couple TikToks, and now look where he's at. But to have that kind of that business acumen and that information that you need beforehand, I think could serve so many people in a positive way.
We've definitely made an investment. Again, we're not saying that you need to do all your record keeping, do all your booking, and we also can't say you have to do this, because how the hell are you going to afford that, know? So in the Art of Business, in Blue Monday Mission, in what we bring to the table together, we are 100% creating that support network that will be around you in the very beginning. But it's going to be up to you to take yourself seriously and move that needle forward. Yeah. And what I want to advise the people that we do bring into this system, don't move forward without looking back, because eventually one day you have to circle back. So once we do platform you up and move you up, make sure you're helping to bring somebody else up. Once you can afford your team, then you make sure you pay that team a little bit more to come and help serve the mission.
I pay the creatives in this town better than anybody else.
That's what I'm coming from.
Everybody else is trying to get these guys to do stuff for so cheap. I've seen it with my own eyes. I know what editors in Los Angeles cost a day, because I've worked with editors in Los Angeles. I've worked with directors in Los Angeles. I try my best to pay those rates to the creatives here because they deserve it. J.D. Mahoney alone is one of the most talented cats I've ever had the fortune of working with.
Shout out.
He's always come through clutch for me.
Yeah.
But
and that was kind of my belief system in creating Acadiana Cast. We have so much talent in this state. Why are we outsourcing it?
We shouldn't be out at all.
At all. And if not outsourcing it, allowing these people to leave who don't want to leave this beautiful state, and they're bringing their talents elsewhere. Yeah,
it's unfortunate.
We as a community, what's the word I'm looking for? But the consumer. Mm-hmm. I don't mean to get on that soapbox, but it is true. We are spoiled to what we have. But I believe this next generation, your 30, 40-year-old One, we're tired of seeing. My kids are 8. Your kids are grown. I don't want to see my kids leave.
No.
If they leave, you better be leaving to do much better than I ever did,
Right.
and I dare you to try. But I don't want my kids to leave town. I want them to take the torch of what I've created and spent my life doing. But we as consumers, we have gotten to answer your original question. What do I want people to know from the experience of Downtown Rising, Marc's investment in that, Love of People, Blue Monday, everything? We as consumers, we have to value it first. And I do believe that we still on a level take it for granted. I think things are getting better. That's why you see all the investment in downtown. That's why you see these one-off, even chain venues paying a musician now to come and sit and sing the backing tracks. That's fine, but at least they're still highlighting and giving a career opportunity for that person to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just think we as consumers, we've got to do better at valuing our service industry and creative economy.
It's true.
Well said. Well, as we kind of wrap up here, John, you just kind of foreshadowed it, but what is Love of People doing with Downtown Rising the day of?
Oh, man, I'm cooking ribs for Marc.
Yeah.
That's all I signed up for. Now, what Gus assigned me to do, look, my love language is I love to cook. I love to feed people's souls, man. And so I'm preparing meals for the volunteers, the crew, and the bands, a little lunch and dinner. But definitely making some barbecue ribs for Marc because there's a funny story behind that.
You care to share?
I'd love to share.
Go ahead.
Oh, man. So my 40th birthday, I hadn't been away from home since I had kids, and I'm like, I need a break. Marc, for a couple of years, have been telling me, JW, you got to get on the road with us, man.
How many times you want?
Anytime. And my 40th birthday was coming up. You were going on tour. Where was it again?
We went to Nashville.
Yeah, but before that, we were in the hills of out yonder.
Nah, we'd have been.
Jesus.
I don't know where we.
It was an awesome festival. Guys that started doing that years ago, but in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I can't.
And
remember.
I'm watching Marc. First of all, this is the first time I'm ever on the road, and I had all these preconceived notions of what it is to be a rock star on the road. I'm like, surely we're gonna be some interesting stuff. It's not. So you riding in the van and you're going. Your manager thought I actually was a roadie.
Yeah.
And by the end, he wanted to hire me as a roadie, and we ended up having to tell him not really a roadie, bro. But so we out there at this first concert festival thing, and I'm just watching and like Marc isn't eating anything. I'm like, dude, we going back to the hotel. It's getting late. You're not eating anything. So I'm like, let me go get my own bar plate. So I found a little rib thing. I'm like, that looks good. So I got some ribs and a little side, and then we get back to the hotel, and all there is hotel food. First of all, this lifestyle is not as glamorous as it's made out to be.
No,
Because
it
either
ain't.
you're eating like,
Well, I can't eat more than I can't eat within the 3-hour window before a show.
yeah,
Because I'll puke on stage.
understandable because
I'm
you got to
working
let
so
it
hard.
out.
I'm working so hard with my diaphragm, I can't eat in that window.
It makes sense.
And then we get off stage at 10:30 or 11 o'clock.
Everything's closed.
Everything's shut down.
So you end up with like Skittles and a
I
freaking
end
Twix.
up with nothing because I won't eat that stuff.
So exactly. I did one night, the first night I had my own room, and I felt like a serious fat kid with wrappers all over the bed. It was disgusting. But the first night, I'm in the room with Marc. And so I got him this rib plate, and I'm like, hey, dog, I got you some ribs, man. I could tell you didn't eat anything. JW, thank you, baby. That's clutch.
It was
And
clutch.
he walking around the room with his dad bod, belly out, eating the rib. And I'm sitting there plugging up my CPAP machine. And I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, is this what rock and roll on the
Yes,
road
it
is like?
is.
I said, Marc, we have got to take a picture because I've got to send this to my wife because there ain't no way in hell there's one broad coming up in here tonight.
No.
You walking around with barbecue sauce on your face and ribs in your mouth, my CPAP on. So it's one of my favorite pictures that I still have yet to share with anybody, but at least I admit it, I got it.
I love it. I love that story.
So I'm cooking
story.
ribs
I'm excited.
to celebrate the
Man,
20.
I'm fired up.
I'm cooking 20 racks of ribs.
I love this.
That's awesome. We got to see if we can pull that picture out of John and put it in post. But
Are my nipples exposed?
No,
I had
I
a shirt on.
no, your shirt was off.
Okay.
Just your chest hair, but it's your nipples, your areolas are not there.
Okay, all right.
So it's here up but you got the rib in your mouth.
Yeah, all right.
There you go.
We good.
A verbal image for you guys.
There it is. And my CPAP's on my head. There was no booty happening.
Well, to bring it on home, talking about Carencro. Home is a song on the album, but Mark, we talked about what the concert's going to be like. We've talked about your involvement and your love and passion for this community and the musicians that make it up and the creatives, and wanting to see a better community around it. Kind of wrapping up here, what does it mean to you to celebrate 20 years of this album, Carencro, right in the hub city, the heart of Acadiana at Park International, this great venue with so many loved ones and fans?
Man, look, I never really imagined that I would be able to do this for a living. Growing up, I just assumed that I'd play like everybody else, that I'd have a day job, and then I would play on the weekends with local cover bands, because that was my experience growing up. I never really understood how you become a Michael Jackson or a Whitney Houston. I just didn't understand how that process worked, and I figured it was not available to me. So it wasn't until I found myself opening for Maroon 5 back in 2002 that I realized that I could do it full time. So to make it here 20 years, having raised my family on music, having fed my kids on music, having been able to do things for other musicians like Lee Allen Zeno with music alone, has been a hell of a ride, man. I think it's the best job in the world. And anytime I start to doubt that, I just call a friend like John and say, hey, come on tour. And they're like, "Bruh, this is awesome."
No, it ain't.
Well, you are right. It's one of the greatest jobs in the world, and you're damn good at it. And we're happy to celebrate you. And it's going to be a hell of a show. Downtown Rising, September 27th at Park International. All the information is going to be in the description of this video, wherever you're listening, watching into this. Any final words you guys want to leave us with?
I want to definitely highlight this man right here. It's a sacrifice to do what you do. You're away from home. I mean, compared to working offshore, but like even going more. Sonya, you and your wife been together for so long. The sacrifices this man has made, and to be a close friend of his. And again, we support one another, not just as community leaders or professionals, but also as men and brothers.
Yeah.
And so the growth that we both have gone through as men, getting older, seeing our children getting older, getting to a point in life, and what the hell am I really going to do? It's been a blessing to be on this tour, on this journey with you.
Same, man.
And I definitely want people to know just how multi-talented you are, from carpentry to electrician to creativity to everything you do, how wise of a person you are. And I just want to also thank our wives for tolerating our shit.
It's true. It's true.
You know what I mean?
It's not easy, dude. They do put up with a lot. Yeah, I mean, look, we hit it off pretty immediately. And it's funny how many times we both come to similar conclusions about how we should move forward. It's been a joy, man.
I want to give you the world, bro.
Back at you, homie.
I love that damn song.
Hey, that's a great shout out. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks to Gus Rezende, John Williams, and of course the great Marc Broussard. It's going to be a great show. Go check it out Friday, September 27th, Park International.